Trump administration officials have told the US Congress that there was no intelligence indicating Iran planned to attack the United States before the joint US-Israeli strikes. According to a report, Pentagon officials briefed Senate and House National Security Committees on the scope of the military campaign, stating that the strikes killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, sank Iranian warships and hit more than 1,000 targets. Lawmakers were also informed that there was no evidence Tehran intended to strike US forces prior to the operation. To discuss this further, we're joined from Washington by US defense and national security analyst Wes J. Bryant. Given US officials told Congress Iran wasn't planning on an attack, how do you assess the military justification for the strikes?
You know, America needs a reckoning. We need to decide what do we stand for and how much more of this we're going to put up with. I'll not lament the end of rule for murderous tyrants in Iran, but I don't want it done in a way that's equally tyrannical and murderous and in blatant violation of international law as that of the enemies we stand against. We're really at this point becoming no better than Russia, in many ways no better than the Iranian regime, and even more of a danger to global security. Truly, we've become that which we've been fighting against. These strikes on Iran, they violate international law, they violate US law. This was use of force prohibited under UN Charter. The exceptions for use of force against a state under UN Charter are for self-defense against an imminent threat or under Security Council authorizations. Now, as we know, there were no Security Council authorizations here. There was no imminent threat. Trump is a serial liar and a con man. He's openly lied about an imminent attack against US forces, against himself. He's openly lied about ballistic missile capabilities on part of Iran that can reach Europe and the United States. And we've already shown that he's openly lied about Iran's nuclear program. The Pentagon has already testified to Congress that there is no intelligence on an imminent attack. And the intelligence on nuclear weapons capabilities, it doesn't exist. Our own US intelligence has confirmed that it doesn't exist. If Iran was even working toward nuclear weaponization, assessments are that the capability wouldn't have been there for another decade plus.
Does this reflect a broader shift in US policy towards preemptive action rather than measured deterrence?
This is considered a crime of aggression as defined by the UN General Assembly, prohibited under international law. This campaign, these strikes against Iran, they violate the international rules and norms that we've worked toward as a global community since really the end of World War II. The US military is now firmly, solely in the grip of the executive branch, and in this case, a fanatical tyrant. US military leadership is complicit in dismantling the rule of law, disregarding our Constitution, and enabling a tyrant. In so doing, risking the lives of US forces, as we've seen, risking the lives of civilians and others throughout the entire region, the entire Middle East, risking the well-being of our allies, and creating chaos throughout the entire Middle East. I do think this reflects a broader shift in US policy, only insofar as long as the Trump administration, this authoritarian regime hangs on to power, and until we get rid of the Trump administration.
And how might these strikes affect US credibility with allies and adversaries if the threat wasn't imminent?
Well, I'd say Trump has been manipulated by Israel. Israel, who accuses Tehran of nuclear weaponization, while at the same time has had their own program in secret for decades. Israel, who commits under Netanyahu genocide, is a rogue player throughout the Middle East, has bombed diplomatic centers, our partners and allies, and truly, currently, no other nation in the Middle East is responsible for as much atrocity and death as Israel. And meanwhile, the true nuclear threats, Russia, as it carries out tyranny and atrocity against sovereign democracies, North Korea as it joins Russia and Ukraine, we're doing essentially nothing about, let alone militarily. While Trump also has a history of praising Putin and other murderous dictators and capitulating to him while denigrating our allies.
From a defence perspective, what risks arise when military action is taken without clear evidence of an imminent threat?
Well, first and foremost, there's just pure chaos in the Middle East, as we can see. There's incredible risk to our own forces. And as I've said, this is in violation of international law and US law. And that's something that our own forces will have to deal with and reckon with, our own military and its leadership. Importantly, what's next? There's no real plan here. As Trump himself and others in the administration have openly been calling for regime change, we have Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War, as he calls himself, Hegseth, claiming this is not regime change. There's no real post-conflict plan that we've seen or heard. There just seems to be a plan for unbridled power and submission. And then we look at the loss to the Iranian civilian population and the civilian population throughout the Middle East. Look at the strike in South Iran that's been reported on a girls' school and a mosque. Up to 200 plus dead, including possibly 100 young schoolgirls. And our central command simply says, we're looking into it. Well, I was the chief of civilian harm assessments at the Pentagon as of last year, until this administration, of course, removed me and dissolved the Center for Civilian Protection at the Pentagon. And I can say with 100% confidence that our central command knows full well if a strike like that took place, and if so, who conducted it, whether it be Israel or the US. And either way, if it was Israel, not the US, we are still complicit. The US still owns that. We own all the devastation and atrocity brought into Iran and the Middle East from now until this is complete.